Hello, my name is Richard Wade-Martins. I'm the Academic Lead and Coordinator for the Oxford Alzheimer's Research UK Network, and I'd like to welcome you to this series of talks on this podcast that explain to you some of the interesting and exciting work underway researching Alzheimer's and related dementias here in Oxford. Dementia is a major problem in today's society as we're ageing, but our researchers in Oxford firmly believe that dementia is not part of normal ageing. Dementia is a disease, and as a disease it'll have a cause, and therefore also, we think, a cure. So here we present some of our work underway in Oxford, right across the spectrum of the translational research, starting with looking at some stem cells to try and understand how stem cells can help dementia, all the way through to caring and helping people cope, look after patients with dementia, through to a talk on the imaging that we have here in Oxford. I hope you find the work interesting and exciting. Thank you very much for coming along this morning. My name's Richard Wade-Martins. I'm the Academic Lead and Coordinator of the Oxford Alzheimer's Research UK Network. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and to chair the discussion this morning for us to be able to share with you much of the work that's underway in the Oxford ARUK UK Network, and I'll explain to you what that is. So we've got a range of talks talking about different aspects of translational research into Alzheimer's and related dementias. So we'll have a few talks and then a coffee break, and during the coffee break there are tea and coffee and cakes in the hall with many information stands where you can go and seek information about further information about dementia and caring and coping and looking after individuals with dementia. So I hope you enjoy the talks, and also do go and have a chat to the people at the stands. Many of them will be tremendously helpful. So I'll just start off by taking 5 minutes to tell you what is the Oxford Alzheimer's Research UK Network. It's a new partnership which was relaunched in September last year. The funding was doubled, and it has allowed researchers in the Oxford area across three universities, the University of Oxford, Oxford Brookes University and the University of Reading, to work closely together, and you'll hear talks from individuals at each of those institutions this morning. So very much Oxfordshire, sort of down as far as Reading, bringing people together. So this funding brings researchers together to encourage collaboration, encourages collaboration within the network, so that is between these three institutions, and also between networks. There are 15 Alzheimer's Research UK network centres nationally, shown here on the map, and there are funding opportunities for individual members of each centre, different centres, to come together and work collaboratively, and it really does provide an opportunity for people to meet and work with scientists that they wouldn't have known previously and may have had ideas that can come together with really interesting research. So the funding for the centre provides some collaborative research meeting funding. We allows funding for public engagement events such as this. We fund travel grants, so this enables young researchers in particular to go to scientific meetings and tell the world about their work. It's all very well working away in your laboratory, doing a particular piece of work, but explaining what you do to the outside world is really important. It also funds a small amount of pilot grant money, so maybe a young researcher has a new idea, they don't have enough data to go to a big funder to get some initial pilot money to get things going, but they can come into our network, get a few £1,000s to launch an idea, and also opportunity to get some funding for small amounts of equipment. And also we have a couple of early stage researchers within the network who are providing advice to young scientific researchers. The twisted, winding career path of scientific research is quite tortuous at times, and advice from those who are a little bit further along it to those just behind them can be really useful, and it's good to provide that information. And the network at Oxford also, every once in a while, the turn comes around to host the National Alzheimer's Research UK Conference, which we did last year, so March 2014. We had about 300 researchers from across the country converge on Oxford, and this is a photograph for some of the organising committee, those who helped us do it. It was tremendously successful, really exciting buzz, of the different scientists getting together. So I just wanted, in this last slide, to convey to you a bit of the excitement about the opportunities available for research into Alzheimer's and related dementias at the moment, and the amount of exciting, interesting stuff that's happening right here in your hometown in Oxford. So in December 2013, David Cameron at a G8 summit launched the Prime Ministerial Dementia Challenge. The message has finally got to the top that the huge healthcare implications as we become an older society of Alzheimer's and related dementias has to come to the top of the healthcare agenda, and it did with his speech in 2013, and that has generated a lot of funding opportunities, and some of that money has come here to Oxford to do some very exciting things, some of which you'll hear about this morning. So one of which led or came directly from David Cameron's announcement was the UK Dementia Platform, also called DP UK, which is a large national study, £52 million across the country, a really national effort to better understand dementia. We'll be working with collecting some large patient cohorts to study in depth. There'll be a programme led here by Simon Lovestone here in Oxford to integrate together patient records across UK hospitals to help us understand research. There'll be a new initiative for establishing more brain scanners across the country, so we can peer into the brain of patients using brain scanners to see if we're affecting some of the pathology. And there will also be a big effort, £8 million of effort, led by me here in Oxford to establish 6 dementia stem cell centres across the country, in Edinburgh, Manchester, Cardiff, Oxford, Cambridge and London, so really nationwide, to use the power of stem cells to better understand and study dementia. And we'll hear a little bit in a talk from Angela Bithell today from Reading about how stem cells are being so important to help us understand dementia. So that's number one. Number two, really exciting, is the pharmaceutical industry essentially has a rather miserable record at developing new drugs and treatments for Alzheimer's in the last 20 years. And that's because it's really, really difficult to do. And Eric Carron, who now leads the research side of Alzheimer's Research UK, has come from pharmaceutical industry. And he told me that he never spent more than 2 years ever in the drug company industry without being reorganised and reshuffled. And he said that's no way to do long-term research projects to understand dementia. So he's driven an initiative in which there are going to be 3 new drug discovery institutes established across the country, one in Oxford, one in Cambridge, one in UCL. They'll work together in a network. They won't be competing, they'll be collaborating. And so we're going to have about 25 researchers for 5 years at each of those centres, 75 people focused on understanding new drug targets for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, motor neuron disease. And they won't be reshuffled and reorganised. It'll be a stable structure for 5 years, 75 people across these 3 institutions working hard to better understand the disease and develop new therapies. Number 3, which is led here from Oxford by Simon Lovestone, is an initiative funded by the Medical Research Council to establish what's called a deep and frequent phenotyping cohort. So this is a cohort aimed to develop new biomarkers. So a biomarker is something you can detect in the blood, a protein maybe that's folded differently or present when it shouldn't be in the blood of a patient compared to a healthy control, and you can use this to monitor disease. There'll also be very intensive brain imaging on these patients. It's very small, it's only 24, but they'll be studied more frequently and more in depth than any other cohort ever has before. So again, led from here in Oxford. And number 4, so the 4th goal in the hat trick, if you like, if you can have 4 in a hat trick, is the Oxford Parkinson's Disease Centre, which I lead. We've been running since 2010 for 5 years, funded by Parkinson's UK, and we were refunded at the beginning of this month. And you may have read about it in the Oxford Mail and heard me on the radio telling about this work. So that means that we will have attracted 10 years worth of funding to better understand Parkinson's in a large patient cohort, stem cell models and animal models. So it's a brilliant example of translational neuroscience, 12 Oxford laboratories working together in full collaboration, funding 15 people working across those labs. And I've mentioned it here today because the mechanisms of neurodegenerative disease will actually very likely be in common. So by studying the 3 diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's and motor neuron disease, we'll get a better understanding of the whole disease mechanisms. So that's what's going on, and these are the people that do it. So this is a collection, a photo montage of some of us in the Oxford network, which Melanie Wick put together. And so these are some of the people you'll hear about today, and some of the people working very hard to better understand Alzheimer's and related dementia here in Oxford.